We came from a farming family. We got into this in the early 90s. So my family was a beef producer. And we were required by government to compost our cow manure as part of our business permit requirement. So we were forced. So by accident, we got into organic farming. And I also got into organic vegetable production. Now, when you're in organic farming, can never avoid people always ask you, how come organic produce is expensive? When are prices gonna go down? So I always tell them, this is just starting. It's in its infancy stage. So eventually more and more farmers are gonna go organic, and the prices will eventually go down. But at the back of my head, I always had that idea. If I really want to convince people to get into this, to see that this is the path towards more food security, I have to start by growing my own food. That has always been the back of my head. But anyway, work got in the way. So we got busy, so I went back to growing my organic lettuce. Okay, but in 2011, we got hit with our first typhoon, and our farm got devastated. And the worst thing was, all of a sudden, in our small farming community where the farm was located, food prices went up double. People started hoarding. So I'm sure we already went through a lot of calamities. But this was, I think, the time when climate change was really just starting to come in. A few years before Yolanda. So we had to close that farm down because it was just too expensive to maintain. So I really realized at the time that farmers were all like me. They have forgotten to grow their own food. They just grow cash crops to sell, to get money, and then they go to the stores to buy their food. So I said to myself, we have to do something about this. And at that time, it was like a wake-up call. If I really gonna go into this path, I have to try to grow my own food first. And then, but I have to do it in a way that helps clean the environment, because when you come from a crisis like us, you start thinking about environment and the changing climate. Because when you're a farmer, you're exposed to this all the time, bad weather, so that gave birth to down to earth. I mean, we moved to an area with a small backyard, 600 square meters, and we started gathering food waste because it was the material that was so much available in the urban areas. So we looked at food waste, yard clippings from developments. There's a lot of grass cutting happening in all villages, and it's just being burned or just being thrown away. And it should be put into good use. So we started gathering this, and we grew a garden. So we logged what we got after a year. So we grew about 50 different kinds of fruits and vegetables, and about 2 tons of produce. So we were quite impressed with the amount that we got in such a small space. But what really shocked us was together with the 2 tons, we also got 500 dozen eggs and about 250 kilos of rabbit and chicken meat. So I said, how come a lot of Filipinos are going hungry when this is something that is not very hard to do, and it's not very expensive to do. So we believe at the time that we have to go out and share this knowledge. So here, this is the before and after photos. So we got this place. It was, it had a small backyard, and we transformed it into this. So we tried to grow our own food. And really, without any doubt in my mind, small spaces like this can really produce a lot if you just plan it properly. So this was at the peak of our production. So this was on a Sunday, and the kids would go out with me, and we would pick vegetables and eggs, and we would have a cookout. It was a really nice bonding experience. Something that maybe used to happen many, many years ago during the time of our great-grandparents or our grandparents, but it's pretty much rare now. So we said, let's start, we have to share this. So we started inviting people to backyard gardening workshops. We started with friends and, family, and then eventually we came up with a book. So this is just some of the pursuits that we had. So we wrote this book. It's called The Backyard Farm. It was written by my wife, and it's now available all over all the national bookstore outlets. And this book in our workshops led us to all these people who also wanted to have that lifestyle change. So we started doing landscape for people who want to turn their backyards into gardens. And then we started offering training and consultancy work for farms that were idle, that also wanted to use our practice. So it turned out, and it became a business. So we really didn't have that intention. It was more a passion to share, passion to try to get small farms to produce more, to earn more. So this became the workshops. Started from maybe, I think we were doing two workshops a year to 3 times a year, to now we're doing it every month, because more and more people are just starting to get into this. They are so conscious with what they eat, and they want to try, they want that connection, I think what they're really after is, of course they want to eat healthy food, but once they start growing something, they find that connection, because we were all once farmers, we have that agrarian root. So I think it's also an identity search on many people that we met during our workshops. So half of the people who came to our workshops didn't have land. So that they also presented another problem for us. Saying, how can we teach them to grow their own food when they're living in condominiums and apartments, and they just have access to maybe a patch of concrete. So we started coming up with solutions. We started with a compost bucket, and then we started doing vermiculture indoor, and then the hybrid of both came our most, I'd say it's our most popular product, which is the tower garden. Okay, so here you see, this is the tower garden, and we've been setting this up all over the urban areas, from subdivisions to condominiums. We've set it up indoor, we've set it up outdoor. So this sort of got us to have that impact of getting everybody involved, to compost, take care of their food waste. By the way, it's more than half of our garbage. So half of that garbage that we throw away is food waste. Can you imagine if we started to use that and grow something in our homes? We will not only be composting, limiting the amount of garbage we throw to the landfills, but imagine all the plastic bags that we would have avoided. Okay, so we have, we got into partnerships with orphanages, which became our, we were very much inspired with them, because they turned like that rooftop into a jungle. So one orphanage came after another. So now we're working with two. We're trying to teach them how to grow seed for our towers and for our operations. So the young little kids there, the girls, and all these orphans, they compost their food waste in the tower, and then we try to teach them how to seed select. So we're slowly building that new line of farmers in the urban areas. We're losing farmers in the rural areas because it's very difficult to survive. Now, if we cannot do it in the rural areas, then why won't we just bring a farm to all the households in all the urban areas? Because at least they don't have that, mentality. They don't have that idea that a farm should be big. I mean, they can work with small spaces, which I think is one of the things that I really believe that the future of farming is going to be in the urban areas. We're going to be growing food in rooftops, in every corner, in like parking lots, right beside our right in the patio, veranda of our homes. That's going to be what's going to happen in the near future. So we want to be there and be part of that growth. So here you see some of these farms that we've helped using our methods. We've had partnerships with Girl Scouts, and we set up the towers together. It's a good education for these young kids. So these are some of the projects that we've also been working with some relocation sites in Navotas. One of their biggest problems there is when the place gets flooded, so the garden that they set up really gets, it destroys the garden. The beauty with the tower garden, it's elevated. So even if they get like a foot of water, they still get to produce on top. So these are some of our workshops that we've been doing for the last year. So we do 2 workshops a month. One for homeowners and the other one for farmhands. So we do one in English and in Tagalog. So these are some of these. Right now we're slowly getting into hotels and restaurants because they also want to produce their ingredients right where they are. And of course they also want to get, at least they want to utilize their food waste. More and more people are getting it. They're very conscious now of trying to go zero waste. I think it's going to be because just the problem that we're facing with garbage is just enormous. It's something that everybody has to be involved with. So here we have this on the rooftop. We have a garden. These are actually restaurants and hotels. So they're feeding the unit their food waste, and then the worms break it down and then they feed the plants. Now this unit, all the excess water gets trapped into that basin that we have underneath, and you also get to reuse water. So it works very well in like a condominium unit. We can also grow stuff indoor with grow lights with LED technology. Yes, we can. It's just a matter of installing the lights, and you can have your greens inside your house. So currently we've converted over 100 hectares of farmland to our methods, producing over 80 tons of food, composting close to like 400 tons of food waste and yard clippings, and giving employment to more than 100 workers. So we're pretty much we've done projects here in Luzon and also in Mindanao where our farm is. So these are the people that the community that we've sort of developed with these projects. We notice a lot of young people now are so conscious with what they're eating. They seem to connect the dots. So they're always in touch with us during workshops. So this is our team. So we have I have 25 years of experience in horticulture and animal husbandry. My wife is a lawyer. She's also a writer, and she's a consultant for FAO and IFOM. And then we have Louis, which is an expert in drip irrigation technology and greenhouse, and then our farm staff. So BPI Sinag has really opened our eyes to many things. It has actually turned our our vision. We realized that we can really extend, and it should be our duty to really share this knowledge that we have, especially now a lot of the farmers in the rural areas are having such a hard time trying to survive, and we get them in our workshops all the time. We want to put more effort in trying to reach out for these people. Of course, the urban areas will always be a brewing ground for the future farmers, but the help now that we should extend would be in the rural areas. We just try to get them to grow their own food. It's that simple, and that's gonna affect their livelihood already. A lot of them, I'm sure, are like me. Used to be like, they're just producing cash crops so that they can sell, so they get money, and then they go to the store. So I think we have to address that they have to first take care of their stomach first. Because for as long as they have something to eat and they're not hungry, then they would be able to be more creative. Perhaps sell the excess to the market, but attack their stomach first. So this is something that's going to be our objective in the next medium and long term. So I will end this with a quote from Joe Floton. He's like one of the pioneers of permaculture, and he said, "You can fix the world's problems in a garden." Thank you.